This is our first rendering of the front of the building. Again, it's out of another engaging conversation, the way these buildings last over time and the way they should then express the changing of time on building fabric. And so this is a building that will essentially age, but age in a way that we're controlling. So these crinkled concrete panels also have the sleeves of copper in them, and the idea is over time the verdigris from the copper will stain the concrete below. So our first thoughts on how we'd use the concrete slabs. The first test panel being made in SA Precast Yard. It's just a masterful process of manufacture. And in the way they sit on the building and come down really with the weight of this massive concrete right down onto a busy city thoroughfare. And here's the building. These are the other university buildings there to the right, you'll see, and they're the same. I think there's 9 of them, identical. One day I'll do that when I want that much money out of architecture, design one building and build 9 of them in one go for the same client. We couldn't do that, so ours actually had to provide this counterpoint. But this sits on North Terrace, which is Adelaide's major civic street, and had to pronounce, I think, this new raft of aspirations the university had for adding to the vitality of the city, to provide teaching spaces and a museum and so forth that would become as much of use for the City of Adelaide as they would for the university. So it had to pronounce that. So back to our concrete panels here, they twist and pleat. Then we wanted to have copper. We want to have a lot of copper in a small space, so the copper was then fluted and condensed, and the panels sealed except for this little trough that's been created under each of these. So under each copper sleeve is this little recess that in time will get filled up with the verdigris, the staining process of the copper, and it's just starting to happen now. Then again, with this building, like the other on Hindley Street, we wanted to actually have it not as a closed building, but it faces north. It's a pretty harsh environment in South Australia, so we gathered together all of the thoroughfare spaces and the meeting spaces into this vast glass chamber where we could actually control the image up into what's otherwise a fairly secure building, so there are lines of sight up into the human habitation within this structure. Again, a close-up of our copper. We're kind of pleased with the copper, that's where you're getting a lot of that. But you'll see, again, just the way that works, the subtle pleating. And it was all about this being a building that will be perceived in the diagonal. As people rush into the city in the morning and out in the afternoon, you'll barely ever get a chance of standing right back and looking at the whole facade. It's a facade to be appreciated in the oblique. And as right back at the start, I mentioned how these buildings should appear exuberant. They couldn't be contained within the prescribed areas of each of these site boundaries. So intentionally we made them cantilever and shoot out beyond the limitations of their boundaries. We wanted the students to actually have to navigate around them and not find easy passage through, to actually get involved both with the buildings but the activities contained within them. This is on North Terrace. Vast staircase. This is a building that was way too big for its site, so there's an intertwining set of stairs, a white fiberglass stair and a black carbon fibre stair, and they leaf around each other. They go to completely different spaces, but so that you can go into the art gallery and take the black stair up to the upper level of the art gallery, or up into the academic spaces, the Hawke Centre, by taking the white stair. So it provides that navigation. The Sam Stagg Art Gallery, there's 4 gallery spaces. This is the largest one, just been completed at the bottom, and at the opening show that was put on last November. Again, details of this major intersection in the centre of the university. So this rather crystalline glass box is at the end of another gallery called the Civic Gallery, and it's sort of this crushed end actually provides a series of vantage points for views to link again the interior and this very important student intersection. Just windows carving out of this big sort of conceptual solid to get views back into the university for many of the programs, and look at just those sort of easy things to do, map where things would be into the city. This window exactly aligns up with the South Australian cricket ground, so we sort of shaped it back and carved in to the point where it just seemed to capture the view of this sort of green centre of Colonel Light's plan of the historic centre of Adelaide. And in the student areas, again, they're sort of gritty and concrete and pretty tough, but these zones of network of internal streets into the base of the building is in underneath a 500-seat auditorium. building at dusk. Working with Fiona Hall, an incredible Australian artist, on a major artwork, and that was this glass tetrahedron was specifically designed for at the front of the building.